we won't read the minutes of the last meeting or anything, we'll just go right into the special meeting. The purpose for this is, Lisa and I went to, the attorneys on Friday, and I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. Mike O'Reilly from Cedarville called and said they didn't feel, they haven't done as much research and stuff as Delta had. So Mike said if we didn't feel at ease with Delta, they would be interested in interviewing. But if we felt at ease with Delta, they didn't have any problem with, begging off on the opportunity. So we met with Delta at 11 o'clock on Friday, and it was about an hour and a half meeting, Lisa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa and I were swayed or impressed with Delta. I mean, Lisa, go ahead and what your opinion was.
Well, I think the presentation the man gave, that was a meeting I wasn't there for, but we talked to Chris, and I think they have a lot of background and a lot of statistics to support how they run their road protection program. He said he didn't have a lot of other projects going on right now, so that he could, devote a lot of time to this. Some of what they want to do, we've already done, so it's going to decrease what we have to pay them. The county's helped us out with that, so, I was impressed with him.
And he answered all the questions. The attorney had good questions too that, want to know the experience factor and stuff. Right now they're dealing with 2 townships out in Steuben County. They're working with the county of Steuben and 2 townships on a small pipeline, or a short pipeline must be. It was only going through 2 townships. And that's the only pipeline business they're doing right now, I believe. So they haven't got a lot of experience with pipelines, but they've got more experience in mini malls and stuff like that. So they're, I think they're more qualified. They're more, they've done, as you said, the road use law, the road use agreement. They've done that. They've got a plan you can go with if you want. So we felt, the 2 of us, and it's going to be $6,400 instead of $9,000, and it could be less. We've got to get together the training part of it. If we can share the training with Meredith or Davenport, which the amazing part is, Davenport supposedly has been online how long with Delta? I mean, everybody seems to, for months, they haven't done their training yet. So I think we're not far behind, and we can save some money if we combine the 2 or get 3 of us together. They don't like too big a group. The bigger the group, the longer it takes. They said it was a 4 to 6 hour training probably, and they recommended it stay town crew, town board, basically is what, and the code enforcement officer would be the main people. That's what they figured on the people they felt would be the ones to deal with. So
what would be the nature of the training?
I'm not sure, Gene. I'm not sure. He didn't go into what it went through. He said it could be 4 hours. They've had them up to 6, possibly 8. When they did Otsego County and the townships in Otsego County, it was all of them together.
So
he said that, more questions, more time.
So that suggests that there's an enforcement component that required from our end, right?
Well, not enforcement, what?
Or observation?
Observation basically is
That's
what
what
it
I
is.
meant.
Right, observation more than enforcement.
We
pass on what is seen. Whether we have a town employee that is, every day there may be somebody else just, take an hour of the day to drive up by the work site. You're not going to be covering it for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, whatever the work day is, but they'll be spot checked is what I'm expecting. So I don't think anybody can expect to be watched 24/7. But, you know, stop in one day at 7, one day at 10. So they're not knowing when somebody's stopping, and that's a way to, you know, break it up to the trained people. But that's what Lisa and I are recommending to the town board. I've spoke with all of them about it, and I think, I guess we should have a resolution to the effect of hiring Delta or not. So we would entertain a motion to that effect or more discussion.
I'll make the motion to go with Delta.
I'll second it.
Okay, and more discussion?
Just, we need to put in the resolution at a cost not to exceed a number.
Right.
And they suggested not to exceed $7,000, even though their number right now was 6,400,
Okay.
remember?
I didn't remember that.
Right,
You know, they said, you know, they showed in the booklet, I believe.
Yeah. He said off the top
$1,000
of
for
his
this,
head, it'd be
and
60,
$1,600.
just put in a cost not to exceed a certain number, and it might very well be less than that, or a lot less than that.
Right.
But to put in the resolution, put that in.
So
That
this-
was from Cheryl,
Oh,
that was from the lawyer.
Cheryl, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
7,000?
Right.
Okay.
I would be comfortable with that at this point, because I think it's gonna be less.
I mean, what they had specified was like 6,400
6,400.
and possibly less with merging in informational meetings and training sessions.
And that'll be less then.
Right. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay, and now we've also, at the same time, between Delta and Cheryl Sacco, we have decided, or we have, Lisa and I anyway, and we discussed some of the board, that Cheryl has changed her opinion. She's always been a road use agreement, it's all right. She has not, as of last week, last week had been 3 weeks last week that she hadn't heard back from Constitution. So she's recommending that we go to the road use agreement, road use law, that she's, you know, willing to work up for us at a cost not to exceed $1,500. Is that right? It could be
Yep.
$700-800. She don't, you know, she's done them before. Depends on how much she wants to hammer us. I told her we ought to get a lot cheaper than that. She ain't hedged. So
Well,
yes,
I mean, if Delta has that already, wouldn't it be a matter of looking at Deltas and then having her review Deltas instead of?
well,
Or is that what
then
it
she has done Meredith's.
Oh, okay.
And she has other ones that she's done before, and I think she has a copy of Sydney's, cause, yeah, she does, cause she's,
So just
she's
not
sent me a
reviewing
copy.
it.
You know, hopefully, you know, getting some concerns and matching it to us and not just Meredith, I guess is what it's basically for. She wants to get some money out of it. I mean, that's, you know, lawyers don't work for nothing. And if she's gonna put her name on it, she's gonna have it her way rather than some other town's way. But but she said, you know, it would not be more than 1,500 and it could be less, you know. So we would like to, if, you know, it's open for discussion. Whether we wanna do it, don't do it. I know there's still issues with it. I'm not sold on it yet, but I think we can, you know, if it's the only way, Constitution is just not coming forward. And that's, you know, nobody wants a law. I'm the last one, maybe not the last, there's a couple board members want one less, but, I'm, you know, the law is, you know, not my choosing, but it may be something, you know, if that's the only way to get Constitution to the table. You know, that was my concern before. I think at the FERC hearing, they said there that they were into getting agreements with the towns and stuff. If I remember that, when they're in their prelim or whatever, they, you know, which I thought was so wrong. They're putting this on us. They ought to at least make sure the companies work with the towns. But if they're not gonna do anything to help force it, we have to do it ourselves. And I hate to do it, but I think it's inevitable. But it can be repealed with the same process as putting it in. We found that out too.
at least you can bring them to the table, hopefully.
Well, the only thing that's gonna do it is if the road use is stringent enough, they wanna get to something that's less stringent.
Yeah, I think Mark tried for many months in the county, and
Mhm.
the company sent them, and it was available at Connie's office for a while, their quote agreement, their standard contract.
Right, right,
And the towns and the highway supervisors and county supervisors marked it up, sent it back, and the county and Constitution came back with essentially the same
the same thing,
agreement.
if they came back with it.
Yeah, they
Most of the
did.
time, they didn't, there wasn't much response from Constitution at all.
So clearly Constitution is willing to offer, not an agreement, but
Right.
sign our standard contract, which
Right.
if you read through it, is written to give every advantage to the
Right.
company,
That's right.
not surprising.
Right.
So, I mean, the town is kind of backed into the
But
corner.
the amazing part is, Davenport's been the leader in this whole thing over the year, almost a year, I guess they started pushing for the road use law. You know what, they still haven't got a road use agreement signed.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
A law or an agreement?
they've got a law,
Okay.
which a law can be done in 30 days.
Well, that's better,
That's not-
it's stronger
that's-
anyway.
Well, yes and no, because if it's stronger, why hasn't Davenport got a road use agreement? Because nobody's pushing them, FERC hasn't approved it yet, that's why. Because they're not gonna spend any money until,
Oh, I see.
yeah, I mean, that's, I think, why should they do more spending, more talk, when they don't even know if they're gonna get approved yet?
Did your lawyer give you any time frame of, like, if you went?
It'd take her a week or so to put one together, so it's not, isn't that what you said, Lisa? Yeah. So if we get some information from her, within a week or so, get a copy of it, we'll try to get copies out and get, I don't know if it'd be time enough to put another special meeting in, just because it's the 12th, another week.
We got a meeting early in September.
We got September 1st, so.
Yeah.
Couldn't be earlier.
Couldn't be much earlier. So, and that is in Treadwell.
Right.
And, so that's the whole of it, I guess, it's something that there are some concerns, and we're gonna talk to Cheryl Sacco about it, just see what she can find out from other road use agreements on stuff. But that's what we're, going into that section, if the board wants to. If we need a motion to that effect, more discussion.
We don't want any more laws.
Well, nobody wants laws, that's the last thing we want, but if this is the only way we can get them to
Can
come to
this
the
be
party.
reviewed and looked at before?
Yes. Oh, yeah, she'll do the law, then she'll, send us copies of it to review and stuff.
Without costing you anything?
It'll be part of the cost. I'm sure it's part of the $1,500 or less, we may have to make
You pick up
copies.
the phone of the lawyer and.
I mean, we'll probably get 1 or 2 copies from her, and
Okay.
then, Don will have to make copies, and I'm hoping I've heard it, I know Sydney's is terrible.
Well, she said that the first one she did cost her $8,000 to do. So she felt she was giving us a real break by saying it wasn't gonna be more than $1,500, because she was drawing on her expertise and her laws that she already had there to draw from. But she wants to make it characteristic to the town of Franklin. She
Right,
wants to make it work for us. She doesn't want it to be just generic.
right,
And Delta also would like to have a law and a road use agreement from us, so that they can help enforce, because part of their program is enforcement. So it's all kind of goes together, the whole process of hiring Delta, and we really need to have a law. Not that I want a law, I don't want another law, but
and we will probably go over Delta's initial program. I know in Treadwell, they were talking a basis of 100 loads. I think on, their scale or whatever, they had to meet 100 loads before it would kick in. And
that can be adjusted for us.
that can be adjusted down or up or whatever. Because he said, Constitution told him it'd be about 22 trucks per mile of pipeline.
Of just pipe.
Just pipe, that's pipe trucks, not gravel or sand or whatever. And I've heard too that they're gonna do a lot of on-site, recycling, or,
Grinding up the rocks.
grinding up the rocks and whatever, so they don't have to truck so much in. So, that's, we can change that number if we want to down
Well, yeah, I
lower.
mean, in fact, that's, in reading their plan, that's a requirement that the board must set their minimum
Right, but
impact
they,
threshold.
but their program, up in Treadwell was, I think it set it at 100 is what their presentation was.
Yeah, they've got some.
The number of 100, but that, we can change that, and that's one thing we're gonna be looking at. But you're right, I think it's unfortunate that it's comes to this factor, but I'm not sure what Harpersfield is doing, Masonville, or
Do they go through Masonville?
Just barely.
not a lot, but they go through Masonville,
They flip a corner.
Sydney, Franklin, Davenport, and Harpersfield. And Meredith, they're gonna be probably using their roads, that's why they want the road use
Just
agreement.
access, road access.
And just to make you aware, in talking with some of the people from Oneonta that has seen, Delta's program and whatever, one of the first questions that come up was that Constitution had tried to wiggle out of the gravel trucks, would not be there since it's being delivered, so if they have gravel
Mhm.
delivered, it's
Right.
not part of their project. And
Right.
Oneonta apparently had to make sure that that was in there.
Well, I'm sure Cheryl mentioned
Yeah, so
that,
just make it aware of her.
that Constitution is the one that should be the bonding company,
They'll weasel
not-
out if they can.
not the subcontractors.
Yes.
Because they're the major and that's what she's already told us, this was early on in her road use agreement, she said, they wanted to, it's not my responsibility, it's theirs, well, they're the responsible party.
Right, for everything.
Well, and we also talked about that threshold being characteristically pinpointed for the town of Franklin, that when a truck comes in, that's counted as one load, and when that truck goes out, whether it's empty or full, it's counted as another load.
Right,
So that truck, both in and out, is counted,
yes.
so that will
The
probably,
number will
it will
grow,
help us to
loaded
decrease
number.
our threshold to make sure that,
Right.
Then
It's
all
covered.
the usual uses like mill and
Right.
lumbering and rock quarrying will be below the threshold number. That's
should be.
the point of setting the
Nor-
number, so
yeah.
Normal, yes, that's what,
whatever normal uses are in Franklin will be below the threshold, and
Yes.
that the pipeline project will be above the threshold.
well, logging and stone depend on how big a job they have.
Right,
And how many loads, I mean, you wanna give the local some break, but you cannot make it so,
You can't make it
But it's
discriminatory.
per day,
No.
right? Isn't it trips per
no,
day?
no, it's not per day, it's on the road, I believe. Because 100 trips a day, that's a lot of damn trucks in a day. And I would think if they're 22 load of pipe per mile,
I didn't bring my copy. Brian.
you're not gonna
Yeah.
get 100 loaded, or 100, commercial trucks a day, unless you count pickups and everything, then you might, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
think pickups can be counted.
they're so small, they don't actually.
Right, right, but that's what I'm saying, if they're not gonna be hauling in a lot of sand and stuff to put around the pipes and stuff, the loads are gonna be, a lot smaller.
Yeah, as I understand from their presentation, this minimum impact threshold is per project.
Mhm.
Right,
It's
right, not per day, right,
Right.
per project,
Per
right,
project.
right. No, I agree, that's what I understand it too, it's not a per day thing, it's a over the project thing. Yes, yes,
Going back to Constitution and the subcontractors, the GC is gonna be Constitution, and then the subcontractors are gonna be on the Constitution pipeline.
we know that,
So
yes.
they're gonna have to be covered through them, and they have to make sure they have the right insurance, these subcontractors.
Well, that's what the
Because the same
lawyer's
thing
gonna make
happened in
sure that
Manhattan.
the general contractor, which would be Constitution, Williams, whoever you wanna call it, they are gonna be the ones that are gonna be required to carry the bonds. What they're talking on this, when we get into this thing possibly, is that there'll also be like not a slush fund, an account, because in phase 3,
Escrow.
escrow account, in this phase 3,
But there's two in City, one in Masonville.
Delta bills a town, and the town bills Constitution.
Right.
So, the wannabe is to have an escrow account of X number of dollars, so if Delta puts a bill in, the town isn't holding for the money is in this escrow account that we pay out, and then Constitution refurbishes the escrow account to keep money in there to pay things, that's what the plan is. Now, we'll go from there, but that's basically what we found out in Binghamton. I thought it was a good trip. Well worthwhile. We found some more answers from Delta that were pertinent to the discussion, and that's what we came back with, and I think we've, is there any more discussion? Do we have a motion for the local law on hesitantly?
I make a motion that we appoint Cheryl to draft the local law characteristic to the town of Franklin, embedding in that the road use agreement at a cost not to exceed $1,500.
And that's, so we'll have one to look at, that's not to adopt it, that is to present it to us in document, so we can look it over and discuss, and so it's not accepting a road use law yet, it's looking at a road use law presentation. Do we have a second?
I'll second
We have a second. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
it. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, man. Thank you.
Bruce,
step.
what
Yes.
does Mark think about all this? I mean, they're kind of his roads.
He
didn't go to this
he
meeting.
is, I talked to him yesterday, I thought he'd be here tonight, because I told him about the meeting. No, I talked to him Monday, whatever day I did, I did call and talk to him. And he's realistically, he thinks it's not a bad idea. He likes the cost being shaved some, he was, concerned about the cost factor. And this is a one-shot deal. If there's another pipeline comes in, we don't have to pay Delta again. This agreement covers 1, 2, whatever
And
comes
it's
in.
projects, it might not just be a pipeline.
Right.
Right,
It could be a strip
Right.
mall,
power
suppose,
lines,
huh?
power lines, wind
Power
turbines.
lines, strip malls, whatever, it's whatever project they need to
Project.
oversee, that's all part of this.
Yes,
Has the board given consideration to the local people that are already here working, that anything that is put in place won't affect the locals? In
Well,
other words, the local loggers, it won't affect the town of Franklin when they're hauling gravel for the roads and stuff like that?
well, town of Franklin will be, I'm sure, exempt from it, being the town. And
Many of the local ag people will be exempt because they're ag exempt and don't have to follow all the rules.
What about,
And you cannot, the right to farm law, you're not gonna be able to go against that either. So you should be totally protected, then you should be fine. The
What's
local
good-
people should be fine.
it's gonna be looked into to make sure that,
But we'll make
it
sure of it.
protects, as much local as we can, without
without
being
restriction on the
discriminatory against,
roads?
yes. Yeah, I mean, that is the bottom line, but I mean, the same token is, if there's somebody out there that has a development or, new project that takes 300 load of gravel or, concrete, combination, should they be exempt from bonding? And I didn't get a hold of the lawyer, I called, she was headed to a meeting to find out how much bonding cost on a per thousand, on a per million, for $1 million of bond. Because the concern is, like Beisler's, there's gravel and sand and everything, and Otsego ready mix. If you get a big project going, it's, but I guess the nice part is, like, we had last year on Heathen Hill, there were 3 homes put in. But they're on an individual basis, because just ours alone with the sand for the septic, we had 20-some load of stuff brought in. Well, all of a sudden that threshold gets closer and closer to be met.
Right.
And if with 3 houses, it probably was met. So, I mean, but being separate issues, it was supposedly dealt with separately too. So we wanna protect local as much as we can, but we can't, you know, I mean, if it's where they're gonna be hauling 5 load a day for a month, you know, it may hit the threshold, I don't know. But if they're that big a job and that much, you know, and the cost of bonding, I mean, I'd like to know what that is. That was a good question too, you know, how much is bonding? If it's $1,000 for $1 million, you know, most of these people can pass that. If it's gonna be that big a job, you're talking dollars per load, not hundreds of dollars per load. So it is a very good concern, and, you know, we wanna, you know, address it as much as we can. And your name?
Joe Shivers.
Joe Shivers, okay, Joe. Thank you. Okay, I see you were trying to make a question?
Did you answer that?
Oh, we did, okay. Okay, is there any other questions? Yes.
We're talking about, you know, the costs of setting this up and hiring Delta. I think Rick raised this point before. In writing this law, why can't you require that the company must have a permit to begin the project from Franklin and charging them a fee for the permit to cover it, defray at least
I think
part of
these
the
laws
expense?
and stuff all entail the permit process.
That will all be
At
in
least
there.
Davenport's does.
So we could defray at least some
We
of
could
this
defray
expense.
possibly some of it, or have it written right in the agreement that, you know, the lawyer costs and engineering costs are covered by the developer.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's what should happen anyway, because we got notice that our increase in our town budget is less than 1% this
Yeah,
year.
0.7.
0.7 something
1.73.
percent is what you're allowed. Last year was 0.1 or 0.1, no, 1.7 or 1.8 last year.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's, you know, the state is just passing the buck, that's all it is to it. And the same thing to the county, you know, so it's gonna be, everybody's gonna be, if anybody stays under the budget, it's gonna be
Oh,
lucky,
you have to.
you know, so, okay. I think that's all that, yes, Liz?
One question about, Delta mentioned something about they would do a pre-study of the local activity on the roads. Has that been done
By the county.
By the county.
by the county? Okay,
Everything
so
in
they've
the county.
determined what, you know, loggers, quarry workers, and all those other
They've
people.
determined the
that-
traffic count, and the planning department has done a paperwork that is accepted by Delta, I guess, and then they've accepted it to Meredith and stuff, so it's, I think it's within the last 5 years, they had a road study. And so the planning department has that paperwork all done. The county has done the traffic count. We're just ready to say, Delta, you're on board, and the planning department will send the paperwork to Delta, and I'm sure the county will too. So it'll be all done. Yes?
So a related question is, since Delta's a private engineering company, how do their conclusions get to have the force of law?
I think what they will come and do some road surveys of themselves too, I believe. And I'm not sure how, hey, this is engineers.
Didn't they do core boring? Did they talk about they would do core some bores to see what the
Possibly.
septic is?
Possibly, I don't know if they are going to or not, that's been spoke of, but it's nothing saying they've gotta do core borings on every road or not, or what, you know, so, I mean, we're leaving it, you know, they're the quote unquote, the experts, that's what we're counting on.
But don't their results somehow have to be written into our laws so that, you know, so that